Welcome to the Mystery College Podcast. Today we're doing an interview with Didi and Armand from the Chief Skills website, chiefskills.com, and their YouTube page. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Great stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic having you on. So do you mind sharing the origin story of Chief Skills and perhaps what happened, what was your initial, how did you initially get into Qigong, energy work?
For sure, yeah. So in 2006, I started with Tai Chi, internal martial arts. And that was, for me, the beginning to really get to know myself. You know, I was already a musician. I was already doing a lot of stuff, but at a certain point, I was like, I really have to find something that's helping me to really reconnect with myself, because there was some stuff going on in my life that just needed attention. And it came in my life just when I, started having these questions about what should I do. And so then that landed in my life. So I started with that first, and that was a pretty raw, traditional Kung Fu training. But my teacher was also very much into Taoism, things like that. So he was, we would be bruised all the time, but we would be reading books as well. Oh, it was a funny little school here in The Hague in Holland where I had my training. And that continued for 11 years. Until my teacher was like, well, I cannot really teach you anymore, but if you want to go further, and I had a really deep connection with Taoism already. It was like that there's something there for me to explore more than the martial arts side of things, which I love, but it was more about self-development, self-mastery, I guess. And but Taoism was a little bit, I say, too far away from me. I was like, oh, if I really want to do that, I need to learn Chinese, I need to go to China, or Taiwan, or... So then my teacher said to me, so have you ever heard about Mark Hostas? So I went online, never heard of him, and then got in touch with Hermetics and started exploring that. And that was like homecoming. So long story short, I started training with him from 2017 onwards. Has changed my life. And so the Qigong became more important, but also how do we apply this Qigong to what method? So I guess the Hermetics became, for me and for us, the perfect Qigong, you know what I mean? Because everything is in there, the reconnection, the mastery, the healing, everything. So that's really short how that went, but
Yeah, and I think Armand started to train Tai Chi, but for me, I was like, I don't know, these guys just, they came home bruised, and I was like, no, that's not for me. So, but I did know the group, and his teacher one day, he gave me a book about 5 elements food, and I was intrigued. So, I read the book. I went to an evening class about 5 elements food. And then I thought, I want to know more about it. So I started applying already. And then I started a course of traditional Chinese, or I started to study traditional Chinese medicine, first on food and after that on herbs. And I was also doing yoga, and sometimes I would train a little bit with Armand, but then Armand went to Thailand, and he came back from training with Mark, or actually beforehand already. You had all the videos, and we started to do power stretches together. And I was like, this sounds interesting. So this sounds much more like something that I want to be involved in. So that's when we started training together, and it really came into my life as well.
Yeah.
And then Chief Skills, that was actually something that came out of COVID.
Yeah, because I was teaching already locally since 2012, so quite a long time already. But that became much more it went through stages. So it went from like group classes weekly, just local. But after a couple of years, I sort of got fed up with that, because I was like, these people are not moving anywhere. Some were, and some I see still. So it's not all of them, but I really wanted to share on the level I was training myself as well. So out of that, yeah, I had a conversation with Mark about it as well, and he really motivated me to explore it, to say just share material and do your thing. He was really enthusiastic about that. So, and then the perfect timing was COVID. We were at home in lockup, and we were like, okay, let's go and let's start this Chi Skills thing on YouTube. And now we're close to 4,000 subscribers, so that's going very well. So it's just beautiful adventure so far. Especially as we grow more and more together in this thing.
Yeah, we kind of needed, everybody was always telling, oh, and the things you're teaching, it fits perfectly together. But it's sometimes when you're so close on the material, where we're like, how do we do that? How do we mix this? And how do we make it into a pathway that is understandable for people? Why is Qigong and nutrition, how does that blend? So it took us a while to get to understand it ourselves, so we were able to teach that. And actually, having G skills and doing podcasts about it, then it kind of merged. And that's where we're at.
That's where we are today.
Yeah, fantastic. And I really appreciate the vision that you two had together with the creation of this, and and developing these skills, practicing these skills together, and solo too. So I'm really interested in what's the big vision of Qi skills? Like, where do you see someone who is looking for Qigong skills or self-mastery, and going through the QiSkills.com system?
Well, we're at this moment, we are working to launch private mentoring program starting October. So that's going to be the most, like, the ultimate offering we can just offer. And we're still in the process of marketing it and just making sure that we can send it out. But the program is ready. That's going to be a 10.5-month program. And that's born out of the idea that we have been teaching for a while. And sometimes you see people very short, maybe 5 days, and they're gone, and then sometimes you have contact, but you hope that they carry on with the training. And also I've had people, and Didi as well, that came here, and we guided for a longer time. But now we came to the idea, how can we help people move through the material in like small year, as we call it, 10.5 months, to make sure that we together, the three of us then, right? So it's Didi and moi, with an individual, and then taking them through these steps, optimizing everything as we go through a 10.5-month period, where we can really make a difference, where we can make a change. So that's sort of the ultimate offering we have now, I think that's also where we find ourselves most effective. Also, now we just ended the summer workshops here last week. These are also small group workshops. There's 4 people max. So we really like to have people having our full attention, right? So instead of large groups where we just send the information, we really love it to guide people through these steps, step by step, because it's just what it can mean for people. We understand that because we go through the material ourselves, and we've been training for years now. So the possibilities are huge. And without this sort of hand-holding, as I say it, we don't sleep that well. We're like, I hope they have it, that they continue with it. But now we think, how can we really go deep with people and really individualized, right? So what are the things on the astral level? What are they dealing with? Trauma release, all sorts of methods we can use to really optimize everything. And of course, with the nutrition as well, the blend we have that we can optimize vital energy. So yes,
maybe it's a good idea to go through the different level of the different like
Plateaus.
plateaus.
Yeah, sure.
So what we start with, and that's for everything we do. We start with the physical. So how can you get an elastic body? How can you get a system that is open and where the energy can come through?
Strong structure, because the effect of that already on someone coming from a self-healing perspective, self-mastery perspective is huge, right? An open body means an open person. So we really want to take the time for people to really become very strong. It's not only about relaxation, it's also about creating a very strong elastic body. And because we see that makes all the difference, especially difference because everything that comes beyond that, every level depends on how strong that is and how strongly developed that is. So and that's and then from there we go to vital energy. They're the same realm actually, but there we're going to look at how to optimize the energy, how to optimize the vital energy, but also creating stronger vitality, better health. Of course, looking at lifestyle, nutrition.
This is the thing, when nutrition is such an important part, especially at these two layers. And it's most of the time people think, oh, it's just what I eat. But it's such, you eat every day. So it's such a big impact on your quality of life, your whole physical, but also, as you do it every day, you have a big impact of making changes there and creating an open system also there. Like the things that you eat can have an impact, like they can hold you back, or now you feel much better by eating them. So we go through like a food journal to see, okay, how does your body react on this kind of food? And
very personalized, very customized to the individual, where we're really going to see where's this person right now, what foods help them, what foods don't help them. So we really go through a very structured, personalized process with nutrition, instead of a one size fits all. We believe that this diet works for everyone, because that's a load of crap. That's just not true. But it doesn't work like that at all. Especially, or else that's our experience. And this is how the traditional nutrition work, right? They really look at the individual, and it has helped us so much. I mean, without that, I wouldn't be sitting here like this now, right? Doing this, because it changed everything. And of course, nutrition will work through all the levels, all to your focus, your stillness, your ability to rise up through the vibrational scale, to ascend, really. Without it,
when you go to the next levels, astral. So, and you see that if you look at nutrition, also, of course, on the astral level, that's the emotions and where are we holding back trauma. But a lot of the food, especially the sugar or maybe the junk food, it's driven by these things. Where are we holding back? What kind of holes do we have that we would fill with this kind of food? Yeah. So to really study it and to get an insight in yourself, what you're doing, there's a lot of healing that can go around by looking at it. But it's not the only thing we're looking at. It's a whole package.
That's an important one, because if you would just do a workshop where you teach people this information and they go ahead by themselves, it's different. They take them on a journey for 10.5 months, where you say, okay, let's really optimize it through the year and see where that is going. So a lot of stuff that you start with on that foundational level will continue, of course, through this period. It becomes the foundation of everything that comes after. But I think that makes it unique, that we can combine this in one method.
The thing also is, I'm getting enthusiastic about it. But the thing, every time I talk about it, but now that we get to the vital, we can feel energy. But the interesting thing is that if you can feel your own energy, you can feel the energy of the things that you're eating, the things that grow around you.
Yeah.
So now that we're at this level, and you can feel like, we did it last week with the people on our workshop. When you put some food on your hand and you go to the ball or do some pore breathing, how does your system react to the food? And it was interesting because we only this time it was we did like lemon, but it was organic lemon and some lemon peel. And do you feel colder or do you feel warm coming out the food? And you put it in your mouth, and where does it go? And it's really interesting. You don't need to have much. But then the last bit, I put sugar, white sugar, the really bad stuff. I put it in the hands of everyone. And the reaction when you do this, it's like some people, they have this reaction like, well, I want to take it off because it feels like...
Literally heavy. Heavy in the arm. It's like, I felt my muscle contract here while sitting there for 5 minutes with this white sugar. It was insane.
But also someone who said, oh, I feel really attracted to this sugar. I just want to eat it. I mean, he started taking little bits and he said, I don't feel the stuff that the other ones are saying because I feel like, look, I thought, this is addiction talking.
Well, he recognized
it. And he recognized it yeah. So how does your system react on this food? It's so interesting. I'm always fascinated by that. So
all foods have a direction, might be more contracting energy, more expanding, more rising, stinking. So we can really balance the system this way, right? So let's say people have a little bit more of a liver cheese stagnation, which most people do here in the West. You can really help with energies to balance that thing. And then, of course, we're also working on why are you frustrated and why are you angry and what's happening in your life. So, it goes so food also works on this astral level for sure, where I guess a lot of the work has been doing. It's been done, it's one of my favorite plateaus to work on with people because you release on that level and you start, investigating the patterns and the character traits and start making changes there. You unlock someone, or they unlock themselves with our help, and anything becomes possible, really. So, yeah.
And then, actually, we have 3 more plateaus.
Yeah. So we want to continue.
Yeah, please continue. Yeah.
We take over. Yeah. So,
well, this astral obviously is a large one. So, so when we go through this 10.5 month program, first 2 weeks are like an introduction, some foundational level, but then 2 months of vital and physical, but then 3 months of astral, because there's so much work to do there. Really optimizing trauma releases, black and white mirror, all sorts of exercises to change that around, and really leave stuff behind.
Yeah.
And then from there we go to mental. All sorts of exercises. So also exercises, of course, from the hermetic approach, the visualization techniques. But now, what to do with it is also looking at trauma release and things like that. How can we change the subtle modalities of what we experience in our cells? How can we change all these things? So this really goes deep on that level. But at the same time, we're also creating stillness, creating openness. We're creating a reconnection not only with ourselves, but also on the physical vital plateau, on the astral plateau. But of course, the second transformation where we open our mental space, and which is sort of the pinnacle for me, as I see it, really helps people to come to a completely different experience of living, coming from that perspective. Last week, there was a guy here who said, when we're there, he said, I have a perspective of looking from that space towards myself instead of from myself looking into that space. And I experienced that as well. And so, but getting there more into a situation where that lasts, and it takes a lot of power, a lot of energy, a lot of openness, a lot of structure to extend and have that more permanently. So and of course we have the mental training also as we go up. So mindfulness training, observing, rising and falling away thoughts, of course, but all sorts of ways to use that material immediately on all levels. And after doing that that's also 2 months, I think.
That's 1.5 months.
About a month, yeah.
And then we go to Akasha.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's always like, how do you talk about Akasha? It's such an experience. It's such an experience that it's kind of hard to describe. And but it's a plateau where we're gonna discover what it is and see how you can use it.
So how did this plateau help you to release from that level? How can we dissolve? How can we just evaporate? How can we create extra space for things to release into? And of course, deepening stillness, everything that happens by just tuning into Akasha for a period and seeing what changes come. But then we already built this foundation underneath. So it's a fantastic. Every time you teach someone Akasha, it's wondrous. You end the session, you look around, and people are like, "Wow!" It's such a profound experience for people reaching that level in a lot of ways. What was that that Philippe said? Yes, last week he said, he had a taste of the.
Oh yeah.
What did he say? Like,
he had a beautiful word, holiness.
Yeah, the taste of holiness, something like that. He said it was really profound when we got these people through that stage, and it does something. I remember the first time I went through that. Everyone who has gone through that frequency remembers it. It's like that was just special. It's very special. So, we introduce people into that frequency, teach them how can we use this to our benefit also for vital energy, elements work. I forgot about elements work, by the way, which is of course in the astral as well, and in the vital, strengthen the elements and work with that. I mean, it's there's a lot going on in this program.
And the last level.
Yes, of course, we go to non-dual light and make it complete and start just a lot of white light training, and also seeing how we open this pipeline so that this white light can come through in a much more unhindered way and a more positive way, and a more way that works for you and also works for those around you, right? And how do you serve with whatever your thing is in your life? How do you bring that into the world as more as a light being, aware of your own things, and more as a medium? Let's say, let's use that word. And so that's where purpose also comes more into play. And so it's all these frequencies we work through, but also optimizing. I always say it's more like you go into an elevator, you step out on the floor, and you just walk around the floor and see what you can optimize, what can you strengthen, what do we see, how can we change it, what are techniques we can use to optimize ourselves and strengthen ourselves, and just have a great adventure with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the analogy of adventure that you used, and going up, having an adventure through all these different experiences, these different vibrational states, and the adventure of gaining self-awareness through this process. Because I think sometimes it's easy for someone to get caught up with wanting the end result and forgetting all along what they're really after is the journey. And so I really appreciate that analogy of adventure. So so like I'm curious about like if you can demystify some of the concept of you know, a vibrational scale or qigong or feeling energy to someone who is a beginner or who may have not been in contact with subtle energy before.
For sure. Yeah. Of course. So starting with the physical, that's right. For most people to understand, we have a physical body, although you might be surprised how disconnected people can be from their physical body. So we find that all the time, you know, I mean, we have a physical, you bump your head and yeah, you know, you have a physical body, but actually making contact there and exploring the physical body is the first stage and that's the first stage of reconnection. Really. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I have a body and in this body, there's a lot going on. Can we contact this body and can we optimize it in its structure, in its relaxation, in its flow, in its openness, how it moves, our breath, well, nutrition, whatever is going on. But then as you start reconnecting with this physical body and you take people to the feeling of energy, life force, which borders on the physical, animates the physical. So there's even a more profound shift happening because now the mind has an expansion and there's a certain stillness that arises with a feeling of this life force. So when they have that, there's a lot going on. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Instead of like, here I am and I know that I have energy, now it changes to, wait a minute, I am this energy. And for healing purposes, optimizing the whole being, this is a huge shift. Because if we still have this disconnect, like, oh, I have energy and here I am and there is energy, that is already pretty nice, by the way. But the shift to being, I am this energy makes also so, but how is this energy doing? How is this energy feeling? How is this energy behaving? Is this optimized energy or not? It opens the door to change. It opens the door to transformation. So this is why we're in the foundation right now. This is where, when we get that shift, then anything becomes possible. And of course, it's also the first step on what is beyond the physical. So it's not only a question, who are you? But it's also, where are you? It's what is this mystery here? Because now you feel your own energy. You walk past a tree and you start feeling that tree. It's like, wait a minute, there's this final level. And so you get beyond the disconnect. But it's also the way into more metaphysical awareness, where you're like, there is more beyond the physical. And this opens the wonderment. I mean, I know people where I cannot do this with, I know them, but for the people who are open for this, everything starts making sense from that. Now that we start slowing that down, we slow down the energy and we start releasing time around that, which happens by itself when you just start focusing on it and slowing down and just focusing on it. There's even a deeper shift happening with the energy as it slows down. And people get into a very profound still state, and then contacting their astral field, their astral bodies, gives them a chance to reconnect on that level, not only in themselves, but also what is coming on the astral plane from outside. What lands on your astral body? What is the media that you take in? How do you take care of yourself on an astral level? But also understanding that this astral body is a museum. It's your hard drive. It's everything that you've experienced so far, and there's memory there. So how can we, and that can be a problem because that created also those patterns, habits, etc. Some good, some maybe not helpful anymore. A lot of times I don't say it's bad. I say it might have served you at a certain time, but now we have an entry into optimizing that and changing that, and coming more into an equanimity state from there, where we really can come more and more present in the moment. So I always look at that two pathways. It's reconnecting with these frequencies and then moving beyond the physical and deepening stillness as we go. But at the same time, it's like, what can we do at these plateaus to optimize these plateaus? But the experience is that we move further and further away from the form. I mean, there's still a form to the astral field. It's pretty strong in this feeling, but there's already a sense of moving to a more space, release of space state there. So there's just profound mental shifts happening when people come into these realms. So opening, and then we reach the mental plane. There's a definite shift for people like, wait a minute, normally I'm always in this more contracted state mentally, but now more in an expanded state. And what happens? There's a huge shift. People are like, oh, wait a minute. I am beyond my body here. I'm beyond form. I connect with everything. There's an awakening that's just profound. As Bart once said to me, it's like, yeah, everything you're looking for is just eyes of a hawk in a large mental space. That's what he said to me. I'm like, what? Can you repeat that? So I wrote that down, and that became my God on the horizon to work towards. And then when I reached that level, I was like, yeah, this is profound. This is profound. When you get people to that state, words start to fall short because it's just an experience of expansion and reconnection that is so profound, so reconnecting that it's so that's fantastic. And that's so, now you move through your own being in all these levels. You understand yourself so much better. And out of the training, there's more of this expanded state all the time, this reconnected state all the time. And this is where the real changes happen. So this contraction that's always pulling people, that becomes more of history, right? That gets more, we all have emotions, we have stuff that happens, but now you know how to deal with it so much better because you come from this expansion, looking inside yourself like, oh, wait a minute, there's a thought, there's an emotion. Okay, let it pass, let it happen. Okay, instead of touching it and creating all sorts of patterns that keep it contracted and keep it sticky, etc. No, now we're more into this space. Now we start moving into Akasha and light there. That's where you move into the divine. That's where you start exploring, where is this vibration happening on? What is the formless, timeless plateau where I vibrate, where creation can happen on, like the painter's canvas, right? Where can the painter create on? Because when we have touch with that, when you see, well, a part of me is also just emptiness. So everything is connected, on that level. I am also, part of me is this emptiness where I vibrate on. And this gives us such a great chance to release on deeper levels because everything, a thought, an emotion has an emptiness underneath. So we can start dissolving and get into self-mastery skills that are awesome, that are just awesome. If I would have had those when I was 16, 17 years old, I would have been very happy, I would have still had hair probably. So no, I'm kidding. But it's true actually. With these methods of releasing and connecting and also on a state of manifestation, seeing, when you would touch the Akasha, that everything that you put in there can come back to you. The whole realization, also the responsibility that comes with that, taking better care of yourself and how you bring your energy in the world. When you see that you're connected, you become way more, aware of what is the energy doing into the world, right? So karma, but also looking at, what's that word? So how do you bring your energy into the world so that it reflects back in a positive way, right? So through your, sorry, I lost the English word for that.
What is it that?
The blah blah field. Well, I'll come to that word. There's a special word for that, right? But I'm Dutch, so sometimes I lose a word. But it has more to do with can you become a good human and can you the best you can be in the world and bring that into that so that it comes back in a way that's meant to be, I guess. It's an adventure of release. And what is it then that remains? What is your talent? Your own unique way of expressing the light into the world? Yeah, I will remember the word in 30 seconds. I'll know it.
I think
Yeah.
can I? It's my first experience with feeling energy, and I studied traditional Chinese medicine, and there were so many books on qi, and there were so many words for or so many kinds of qi, but in the whole study, I never experienced qi. Nobody taught me like, oh, this is how you can feel qi, up till one day, and that was before you train with Mark, and there was a guy, and he did he worked with herbs. He had a beautiful herb garden, and this was and he said, no, you can feel the energy of plants, and he just held my hand above like a plant, and I was like, wow, this is magical. It was the first time that I experienced that. And then he said, well, you can actually connect and you can feel it in your own system. Some plants you can feel from more of a distance or it's closer by. And if you really tune into it, you can actually feel what it does in your system if you take some of the plant. And I was completely intrigued, but I was like, wow, so there is so much more to it. And then not very long after that, Armand went to Mark Rasmus, and then I really got into this energy, and I was like, wow, how it didn't feel strange. I mean, it is very natural to connect with your energy, but I was like, how could we not learn this earlier on? Because it's such a part of our being. But we're cut off, like we learn to look in a different way. We are just physical. And I've worked in public health service with a lot of doctors and nurses. And if you talk about energy or qi, it's like, oh, non-existent. So what we cannot see, it's not there.
Yeah.
But so it was such a blessing.
But even at TCM, there was no emphasis
on
Qigong.
Experience. Yeah.
Qigong would be just moving, relaxing a little bit, etc. But not like, okay, people, let's go to Qi and see how this can help. Also with the nutrition.
Absolutely. It is such an important part to be able to feel yourself in a much more perfect way. Yeah. So it's something I wish everybody can feel.
It's the missing link. It's just the missing link in the world.
Yeah, it is the missing link. And I wanted to ask you, like, going back to the 4 pillars, like reconnecting, self-healing, self-mastery, and purpose. What are some quick wins that one can do in order to start to reconnect with himself, right? Maybe someone doesn't have the Qi listening skills or knows how to make a Qi ball yet, and that might be the missing link, like you said, for them to learn to reconnect themselves so that they can ascend this pillar, so that they can go through these different vibrational states of vital energy, of astral energy, all the way up to non-dual light. So how do we get people back on track with themselves and why they're here on Earth?
Right. Okay. So I mean, you mean this without knowing anything about the balls or things like that?
Yeah. Or I'm the beginner. I'm a 5-year-old Zen mind, beginner mind.
A 5-year-old, you don't need to do anything. Just don't get them in the wrong state. But no, it's I would say start stretching. Yeah. Start stretching. Do stretch in the morning. Open your system up, because actually that was the thing I did. The first thing I did, like from a young age, I always did ballet, which is very much about posture and opening the system. Because when you're when you're not, and you have an audience in front of you, and you have a closed-up system that's not very nice to look at. So, when my ballet teacher stopped, I started to do yoga, and it was stretching, everyday stretching, and it just opens your system up. It's a great way. Even if you do that for 10 minutes in the morning, you feel much better than if you don't stretch. So opening the system up is like a great way.
Yeah, but also one of the things that I started doing was standing practice. Just standing. Yeah. I did that for 9 years straight. It was like, every day. That was just a thing that we did. We started with learning how to align ourselves. How do we find this place where we're right in between heaven and earth? How can we be on these spots on the feet where our center can actually reconnect? Where are the places that you can actually jump if you're standing? Where are you in such a way aligned that you become so aware of your body, also during interaction with other people and situations, that you become aware of, oh, why am I folding my arms right now as I'm standing? Or can I loosen that a little bit more? So just in your daily life, that you become more and more aware of the posture you take with you, and also notice how your body responds to how it feels in a certain situation. And just noticing that, just noticing what happens as a sort of a radar, using your breath, your physiology as how does it respond in situations. You are with a friend, you feel relaxed, you come to your job and you're like, oh man, I feel tense. So can I change something about that? Or what is it that's happening? This is more the physical side. Then at the same time, I will really start reconnecting with your thoughts. Really start a ritual of taking daily practice to just learn how to observe your thoughts without touching them. And the moment you see that you are actually touching them, that you started the creation cycle, that's all fine. But just then take a step back again and just start observing your thoughts, and anything goes. So that doesn't mean they have to stop or anything. It's just when thoughts come, when they go, it's all fine. They can be loud, they can be like a whisper, and also sometimes it can be there's hardly any thoughts at all. Well, then you just observe the stillness that arises with it. It's more like thoughts, stillness, become very aware of your inner world. And because now you can see patterns starting to happen, you could journal them for a while. It's like, oh, sometimes I have these thoughts, and then without judgment. There's no judgment around any thoughts. It's just becoming very aware of your inner world. But not only thoughts, also the emotions that come with it. So that when you start distancing yourself from these thoughts, when you learn how to do that over time, you become better at that you feel that it has an effect on the charge of the emotion. It feels like, oh, wait a minute, because I was so in my thoughts and my emotions, then now I took this step back. Oh, and I feel there's room for changing now, or just letting them fall away by themselves. This is just the first start of learning how to observe yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. And you do this on your own, just in your room, making sure every day you take some time to step in your laboratory and then study yourself. But you do the same thing when going outside the door, and also observing your physiology, your mental states, and your thoughts and your emotions, just to understand yourself better. And that opens the door for maybe change in the future. It's like, oh, wait a minute, now I can maybe change my physiology in this situation. So instead of sitting like this, I could just relax and maybe do this and feel better, and see maybe this has an effect on the other person as well. Maybe they start relaxing. So these, I would say, I'm going to call them simple exercises because they go very deep, but these are exercises that, you can do 24 hours a day, and they have a huge effect because you have contact with those. You can change. You have an entry to change for yourself. And and this is not even being aware of energy or whatever. This is just being aware of your physiology, your mental states, and your emotional states, and learning how to observe them and not touch them. Anything goes. It's all well, and this should have a profound effect.
Yeah.
Quickly.
And I was thinking, as my nutritional background, you can also look at your food, of course. Like, how am I eating? That you can do without understanding chi. Just journal and see how you feel after eating something. What have you eaten, and how do you feel afterwards? And not just afterwards, right afterwards, but like after an hour, and write that down and see. Do I see patterns there? Am I more tired after eating something specifically? And then do that for a week, write it down. And then after a week, you start to take something out. Like, don't take any sugar. That's a difficult one, I have to say, but it's a very effective one. Take sugar out for 21 days and see how you feel. Or take out the coffee that you drink or something. And just see what it does to your system.
Yeah,
and
stuff that you do every day, right?
Yeah, because it have such a big impact. And big impact also, breakfast. Change your breakfast. Eat breakfast if you don't eat breakfast. And so these are a couple of things.
Yeah, an effect that has also on your thoughts, your emotions, and your physiology, right? So can you see the connection with those? But also, I wanted to say, can you see the connection with all four at once? So can you also see that certain emotion or food has an effect on how you carry your physiology at that moment? So your mental, emotional states and your physiology at the same time. And also, because you eat 2-3 times a day, 3 times for most, how does that affect as one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the 4 pillars would count for if you would just focus on nutrition. I don't want to make nutrition the most important thing, but I am. Because if you really connect to what you eat, because the food that you eat, it becomes you. It's digested, and then the cells, your blood, it comes from the food that you eat.
Yeah.
So where does that food come from? What quality does that food have? Is it something produced in a factory, or has it grown in your own back garden? It has a whole different feeling. So with reconnection, there is this beautiful thing. If you reconnect more to your food, you reconnect more to your own being. And there's a lot of self-healing into that as well. So you can heal yourself by changing your diet, changing and seeing what works for you. Stagnations can be how do you say that? It's dissolved. Yeah. And so there's and by changing your food, if you don't take that sugar, what comes up? Emotion will rise up. If you go to a birthday party, or in the Netherlands, it's almost my birthday, and some people expect that there will be some cake with lots of sugar in it, which we will not have, but okay. So there's emotions around some events and the food that we eat. And if you take that away from people, that might bring up some stuff as well. So to have this and to really get into that, it's a beautiful journey. And there's a lot of, what I said, reconnection, self-healing, and self-mastery to that. So
Yep, for sure.
Very important.
Yeah, fantastic. And one thing I'm curious about too is one of the most unique components of your program and your videos, the contents and the teachings you share, is that there's not too many duos or partnered people in this work who are teaching together. And to me, I think that's a profound something that's profoundly unique about what you both have to share. So one thing I'd like to explore a little more on our call is what does it look like to integrate a practice with a partner? And I ask this too, since I'm recently married and looking to develop that skill capacity with my partner as you two have as well. Of course, being that we're both on the same page and we're both motivated and involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for us, it came very naturally. So it wasn't, we know each other 22 years.
Yeah.
And when we first met each other, it was not that we were on this path already, but as we grew, we were always on the self-development path.
Always, yeah.
We were always looking for new ways to see how to grow. We love exploring. So
yeah, we were always on the same page, with everything. So that's why we liked each other. But that's not always a given when it goes for self-development per se, right? It could be in a relationship that you feel you want to grow, and you just detect that, wait a minute, the other person might not be so eager to do so. But in our case, that was not the case. So we sort of grew into it and created space also for each other to explore our own things. It's not only that we train together, we do our own rituals as well, but we share things, but it's more that you create space for the other to grow. How can you support each other to grow? So let's say we have like a ritual where Didi likes to jump on her little rebounder for 20 minutes, for let's say, and she likes to do that in the morning. So I make sure I cook, in the morning. I make our soup, and we always make soup in the morning. So you provide space for each other to make sure that we, and luckily we can live that way, is that we really can help giving the space to the other person to develop and train, but also a lot of understanding that as you move through transformation, as we've been continuously doing, that goes with ups and downs, because you hit a certain pattern or you hit something, you hit a limit, that then also things can happen in a person where there's inner resistance coming out. It's like, okay, this person needs some space, or support, or understanding, at least, because going through real transformation, you need to respect also that it sometimes takes time. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage for a person to go through that, or they might fight with it for 6 months until they're actually ready to move through something. It's not all flowers all the time, right? Real transformation is real transformation. So you have to look each other straight in the eye sometimes, and it can be tough, but it's always looking at, but what are we actually trying to accomplish here, right? So it can be tough, but as long as you create the space and understanding and talk about it, that's very important, because it's not only like, can she jump on the trampoline while I'm doing the dishes, or can I do my kettlebells while she's whatever, journaling or doing the dog. It has to do what's beyond that. Why are we training? What are we training for? And what is the spirit wanting to, how does it want to come out? And also see that you are gonna change, right? So it's this, yeah.
I think it's also, we're both very keen on learning.
Yeah.
So every time the other one has found something new, like I remember you were reading the book The Power of Now,
right?
Eckhart Tolle, and I would read that as well. Or there was a series on YouTube of A New World from Eckhart Tolle, and we would sit there and watch it together and go through it and do the exercises together and be accountable for each other. Like, have you done it? And how did you do? And talk about it. And And with this training with Mark Rasmus, he would teach me, and we would watch the videos together. And I was part of a women's circle at a certain time, and they would do these live classes on different subjects. And he would sit next to me, not having the screen on him, so the women wouldn't see him. But he was there as well and following, like, okay, what is this, what they're talking about? And this was all these different themes, astrology, and being open for what I was learning.
Yeah.
And going through it together. Yeah, we did so many things. Human design, working with constellations, and
So many things. So that's what we share, and
I think showing up is very important. Showing up for each other, but showing up for always being eager to learn. That's a big thing. Being eager to be there. And we did quite some coaching programs together. And we would always be the first one to sit there and be ready and to go for it, do the work. And
so as a couple, when you recognize this, that you both have this self-development spark already there, you're going to be fine. You'll figure it out, as long as you're supportive of each other and have patience with each other, then you're just going to be fine for sure.
And I think, also when I studied traditional Chinese medicine, and every week that I went to school and come back, I would say, oh, I learned this new thing. We need to buy this and this and this and cook this and this meal. And he would just, okay, let's do it. And then some things were a success and some weren't. And then we would say, okay, that's not for us. Just let that go. And then, but yeah.
Yeah, but as the wheel starts turning and it gets some momentum going, you're just on the train together, right? So it's just like, and you go. So, and every day with little increments, you start feeling better and better and more focused. You make better choices. You say, okay, we can leave stuff behind. We're going to sell this, or we're going to do this, or we also we work together as well. So it's not only that we're on a path of self-development together, but also teach together as well. So yeah, it's looking at the 18 years since I started with internal training. It's been a great adventure. But James, there's I guess we both have the calling. We have sort of calling somewhere, of like what is possible if we start going further, this next step. And it becomes, because this momentum is there, it's just happening, and it's marvelous. It's just a beautiful path, And again, it's not always easy, but as long as you're patient with each other, and give each other space to grow, it's all well. It's fantastic to share it in that way. So I'm happy for you, Jake, that you're in a relationship where that's possible. Listening.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your openness and transparency. And I think one thing I imagine viewers really resonate with is that for the Chi Skills program, it's like you're going through that process and that journey of creating this program, going through the training and in partnership. And I think that also is something that, like, not only do the students have a partnership with you guys, but they get to witness your guys' partnership and transformations as well. And I think that's a really fantastic, unique point that I see. So I'm wondering about also, like, what does it look like to reconnect with partnership, or come into self-healing or self-mastery or purpose, the 4 pillars in relationships, or maybe with oneself, or with parents, or with the world around us? Because first I'm so with you with reconnecting on the level of the physical body with food, nourishment, water, getting sunshine, getting clean water, eating healthy foods that are vibrant, and then doing things like qigong and learning to reconnect with our ability to listen to energy and listen to ourselves. So I'm just curious about how our relationships, especially with our significant other, but also with family members or other people at large, or community or sangha. What does that look like with the 4-pillar framework?
Wow, that's a very good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a deep one. Yeah.
And I think there's we can talk about this for another hour, but reconnection, I think you start to reconnect on a deeper way, and it's sometimes also hard to, because when you start to reconnect with yourself in a deeper level, you also gonna make choices. You're also gonna, and it's very close to the self-healing. Who have you attracted in your life up till that point, and where how do you say it? What were they doing for you? And so now you have to look at these relationships in a new way. Now that you're whole and you don't need them for something, it's still good to have people around you that maybe have other qualities than you have. And it's perfect to work together. But sometimes we're using others to relive our traumas.
Yeah.
And so we have to look into
like a dependency, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. It could be family members, it could be friends that you had for a long time. But you feel like, when you connect with this person, I feel I'm going into role playing, or there's something going on, some things that are not healthy. I guess that's what you mean. Yeah.
No, exactly. And that's also when as we said, we're partners for 22 years. Sometimes you end up in patterns where you think like, I depend on something on him, and the other way around. And you find out like, I don't want to do it that way anymore. Yep. I need to have a healthier relationship on certain aspects.
And we have that in our relationship, of course, in our families as well, and then on a larger scale with friends. And sometimes you lose people along the way as well. I mean, that can happen. We really start transforming. Is that some people might find that a little bit threatening, even to their reality, their truth, and that's fine. It's that happens.
Family can be a bit challenging, or for me, it's sometimes a bit challenging that they see you in a certain way. I'm the youngest of all my cousins. Like I have an older brother, and all my cousins, they're all older than I am. So they always see me as the youngster. And so to really stand up for myself and to just not be that little girl that they can, that they look at a certain way and treat me. And before you know it, you're in this pattern together. And I had the tendency to act like that little girl. And then I'm like, I don't want to be that anymore. So how do I stand up, especially in family where these patterns are so strong? Yeah. And now you have to kind of, one example, they would always decide for me with my cousins. They would always say, we're going to do this and this, instead of asking me. And then after a while, I was like, this is not a healthy relationship. I need to be able to choose if I want to do this. This has to be a question. And now I don't want to be given like, you need to be here or there. I want to be asked. So, and the change has to come from me because I'm the one doing all the training and the qigong. So I need to position myself in a different way towards them, so there can be a healthier relationship. And it was very subtle in the beginning that I was like saying no to things instead of showing up all the time on their command. Um, and then it started to shift, and then the patterns started to become different. So you see, like, okay, this is working, and so you're gonna have a different way of dealing with people in your close surrounding. How do you want to be treated? How do you want to treat other people? Yeah, that's, and I find it especially with family because it's so, you know, these people your whole life, and these patterns are very much there, and it's maybe over generations that people have grown accustomed to certain ways of dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it can be like this karmic thing going through the family that, you know, at a certain point you are working on yourself, that you start to change these things for generations above you, right? Or start releasing them. Yeah, that can be pretty profound when they see that. I mean, in my family, people are just happy seeing me transform and becoming more healthy, stronger, etc., etc. And even my father recently, who's now 78 almost, he started reading books about nomadics, and he was like, "Oh my, that's something you do, right?" Well, and he's really reading books about it. And he's like, "Wow, man, this makes sense." And yeah, it's all about meaning and what. I mean, he's this generation that just worked. You know, they worked, and then now, and they were successful in their own way, and now he has this time to sort of wake up, and then he sees like, wow, my son is involved in that sort of thing, and my brother indirectly is also working with, you know, self-development, but also growing throughout his life, always being very interested in different things and development. And I mean, it's pretty healing. I think my training has healed a lot of my family as well. I can just see that because they see certain characteristic traits I was carrying along with me. I don't have them anymore. And that changes them as well in the situations as we come together. They're like, what? Are you different? You know, because we all have patterns in families. And I don't say I break these patterns, because that's not the word I want to use. I just choose to, well, it's not even a choice, I guess. I just change. And then I have more choice in how I present myself in a certain situation, right? Someone says something, I don't have to react in that way that I normally did. I'm very aware of how I come into the situation, and I like to neutralize the situation more and come from another perspective. So that can really change a habit in the family as well. I don't know about you, Jake, if you ever experienced that in your life, right? You know, that you can see that influence as you change. You're still quite relatively young, I guess, but your training must have already had a huge effect in your surroundings. So.
Yeah, definitely. I see it in certain areas, and other areas I see that there's certain barriers and such, and also that's also one reason I was curious about how this process for you, having been married for so long, having had more age, because I think there's some developmental milestones that I've not hit yet, but I'll hit in time, and I'm curious, I'm also curious to hear your process, so I had I could model expectations for myself as I progress in marriage, since I'm quite wet behind the ears with marriage and with many things in life. And so for that matter, I'm grateful. It's great to get into this work early. And it's also, it's even better to be able to speak with people who who are experienced in these matters.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you know, it's your internal work can have such a profound effect. Sometimes without you even knowing it, because you might be still a little bit self-obsessed, I guess, you know, when you go in an internal path. because for a lot of people who really go into a deeper internal path, there's no choice there. They just have to, that's why we also create this program, because we know there's people who just have no option than to change. They have to break themselves down to build themselves up again, because this is how they develop throughout life. But the effect that can have on a family it can be such a profound thing when someone really starts changing. You change the world. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's really true, because you touch people in a different way. Your energy changes, and the people closest around you are going to notice that, and then that affects them. I'm not saying that's always completely happy. Some people might have a problem when you start growing into more of your strength. That can happen. When you just feels like, no, I'm going to stand my ground here. I keep my spine open and straight. I'm not going to play this game anymore, like Didi said, for instance. Sometimes that can have an effect. It's like, ooh, but okay, that needs to happen, I guess. That needs to happen as well. But as long as you do it from knowing that you're not trying to hurt anyone or whatever, that you come from this place of, no, I'm just going to choose to be in my strength, and I choose to be optimistic, choose to be not being led into negativity, for instance. Some families or friends situations can sometimes have that you feel that the conversation within the shortest time can go negative or whatever, is that you choose not to go there. And that takes some guts too. It takes some real effort sometimes to stay true to yourself with that, and without getting into any arguments about that. It's more like, no, this is, what was that? No is a full sentence sometimes.
Yeah, it was.
And this is just no. You just and this, but as you become more and more of a light being, you're gonna spread this light in some ways. So one of the pillars we always say is purpose, because out of reconnecting, and then it leads to of course, out of this reconnecting, you get into the possibility of healing yourself, right? Mm. That more mastery skill. So how do you present this energy in the world, and how can you optimize your state in this world effective? That will lead to a purpose, that is a higher purpose that can have such a profound effect on people. I mean, the workshop we did last week was so healing for everyone. It was it was crazy, Sometimes it's like say the right thing to someone, and we already have the guts to also do that. It's like when someone says something that we keep asking them questions. Okay, so what do you mean? So can we take this thing right now and deal with it right now? That can be quite impactful. So it's when people, I mean, you grow up with yourself, right? You have your inner world, your inner confusion, and you think that you're alone in a lot of things. Well, you're done. It's simple. You're done. You have your conditions, you have emotions, you have mental things. Most people don't learn how to deal with those on your age. Well, it would be so great if in school there would be sort of a class. I never had one of these classes where it could be like, okay, how to take care of yourself. Once an hour, we do some meditation, we learn about nutrition. But no, when I was growing up, that was not there. And I'm sure the teachers who were in the school couldn't teach these subjects. I'm not trying to put them down, but they were not on that thinking level, right? Mm. So even maybe they would have liked to do that, but they were also caught in a sort of a system. So you grow up pretty lonely, right? You grow up with, how do I deal with these things? And so when you come together and you start developing your own inner path, then at a certain point, you come to a point where you can be courageous and say, wait a minute, I know what you're dealing with right now, and I can help you right now, if you're open for it, right? And now we can go there together. I'll wrap your hand and let's go there, okay? And we can deal with it now. Instead of, some lives, they could just pass by and they feel this thing inside. They want to do that, but they don't go there. And that is for me, this is why I do what I do, because unlocking myself, working with people, they have the chance to unlock with our help as well, because it takes courage, and doing that on your own is pretty hard. But this is why we do that, because it's so hurtful to see people to be stuck where they have absolutely the opportunity in this life to unlock themselves and grow into their true power, and also their authentic self, if that makes sense. I mean, authenticity is so important here that you learn you are an authentic being. You don't have to be like anyone else. Be yourself, but know yourself and understand where you're coming from and what your gifts are and how you can bring these in the world. How powerful is that? That's a life well lived, but it takes effort getting there, and that's part of the process as well. This reconnection phase, that is your purpose. Now, look at these 4 pillars. It's also a sequence, right? So maybe your purpose right now is to reconnect. You cannot see bigger goals beyond that, which is fine. Reconnect with yourself right now, and that leads to possibilities of healing. That's your purpose right now, and trust that process. Once you start walking that path, that light path, just trust that is going to lead you exactly where you need to be right now. Okay, and that's I guess that's what we're here for as well. As we develop, we feel also this responsibility to share, and don't beat around the bush, but because it's fun and it's great, but it's also pretty damn serious. It's your life, right? And you're living right now, and you can have a huge impact. Large or small doesn't mean that it doesn't have to. It's not in numbers, right? It's just you being authentic and having an effect on someone. That's I guess that's where our purpose is now, right? Through going through all these cycles of these pillars. They're not the only pillars. There's a process there as well. It's a spiral. And I wonder where we are in 3 years. I wonder where we are in 10 years. It's just a fantastic adventure. We talked about it, right? It's the sort of the call to adventure is somewhere there. There's something rings there. It's like, what if there's something possible? Something can align. So right for the physical, starting with aligning yourself and then moving through these frequencies, understanding yourself, understanding other people better because you understand yourself better. This opens the door to healing. This opens the door to mastery. Man, what a beautiful world. You're right. Just fantastic.
What came in mind while you were telling all this?
I was like, wow.
Yeah. Is that a very profound thing that comes from this training, and you have more choices in everything. You have so many more choices because you see the world in a different way. You see your relationships instead of black and white. Now you have all the colors, and there are so many more choices in how to connect with other people. And there are so many more choices in how you go through your life.
Yeah.
Instead of just being conditioned in a way, because that was what was happening with me. When I hit 27, I was working full time somewhere in an office and feeling miserable about it. And I thought, this cannot be it. But this is what I thought I had to do. I mean, you go to school, you study. I did go to Thailand for a year as an exchange student, so that opened up my life. And after graduating, I did go on like traveling the world. But then my parents said, no, now you have to get serious, get a job, and then and I did do that. But seeing a different life for myself, it was pretty hard. And then, well, we were already together. Armand's never had a proper job. So there was the example, but then it took a while for me to kind of stand up and say, okay, now it's time. Now I have to choose for me and do something different. Go back to school, start your own business, work together later on. So by going into the internal training, it gives you more choices in life. Yeah.
But it all worked towards that point, right?
Yep.
So asking yourself what was good about working in office, learning from that, providing a stable platform for us to grow in.
Sure.
I mean, there's always a positive, right? So, and you're ready when you're ready too.
Yeah.
It's allow that to happen. This process.
Oh no, and it's also good that I had the experience, because I do understand people who go to the office every day, and I know how it is in these places, what the politics are, what the atmosphere. So I can relate pretty well. And that can help. But now it's time to move on and do different things. So
Got you here,
got me here. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, I was wondering if there's any other last comments or insights or suggestions you might want to share with folks listening in or viewing this right now. Like, well, what's a key insight or takeaway or a quick win that they can do to get them started, to have them reconnect?
Well, again, I would start with physiology first, because this is where you make the greatest changes, right? If you feel yourself sitting in a certain position and you notice at the same time that there are negative thoughts happening, etc., whatever goes through your system, is that you first, as you become aware of that, and you are willing to change that, is that you change how you sit. So I'm deliberately sitting a little bit small right now, and I notice there's a lot happening in myself that's not feeling well. So I resort to sitting open, align my spine, and now how do I feel? So what can you do to change your state quickly? What are some methods to change your state to a more effective one throughout the day? And start with your physiology. Just start with how you're sitting. Make sure you're sitting on your sitting bones. Make sure you have your spine open and straight, and make that your measurement throughout the day. So you feel that you're sort of slouching or whatever. It's like, okay, pick yourself back up and see the relationship between how you sit, how open you sit, and how you feel. That's it, because that's the most important part. What I got out of this training is that influencing the state, how I feel at that moment is everything, because we live from moment to moment, right? And our states being optimal, being able to have a chance to learn how to change that from within without any external source, like a cup of coffee or some music or whatever, which is all fine. No, from inside out, that's going to give a lot of power, that you understand, wait a minute. So I would start with standing practice first. I would just stand in a position with the feet shoulder width apart, making sure that you have your spine nicely open. You can have the arms in a circle if you want. That's a nice open position, but you don't really have to per se. You could have them next to your body with a gentle stretch, a nice gentle opening of your body, and build that up to 20 minutes a day. That's one thing that I did in the beginning. It could be challenging getting there, but take your time going there. Start daily with 5 minutes, build it up to 10, maybe 15, until you hit 20 minutes, and do 20 minutes of standing and observing in a nice place where you feel comfortable, where you turn off the Wi-Fi, make that a moment for yourself. And Jake is gone, but I'm sure he can.
I'm back.
Oh, your visual is there, yeah. So there he is. So this is what really changed for me. So just standing there with an open spine, a nice open crown, making sure there's lightness in the joints, balancing in such a way that you feel a strong position. So not too much on your heels. If you want too much on your heels, you know that's not good. Just lean a little bit in where you can feel that you're really hanging in your structure, where you feel that the points underneath your foot are strong points, where you feel there's springiness there. You could take an instant step without having to move. This gives you a real strong connection with your physical body over time. And it becomes your radar, it becomes your everything for just measuring how you feel at that moment. And stuff starts changing. You feel like, oh, in such a certain situation, you're standing in such a certain way. So also publicly, you might change. It's like, oh, I don't have to stand like that. I don't have to stand like everyone like this. No, I'll stand just openly. Just seeing the relationship between your physiology and how you feel at the same time. If you see that overlap, this is that. If that would be the only thing you do, and of course you are noticing your thoughts and emotions at the same time, because that's what you're going to notice when you're standing still for 5 minutes. And then the thoughts are going to come up. You'll be like, wow, it's noisy up there. You just observe it. Don't touch it. Just make it a study. It's like you're standing next to yourself, or you're sitting on your own shoulder, and just seeing what's going on in my universe right now. You don't have to stop any thoughts, nothing. Just become aware of any tension that you might feel connected to a thought that you have or an emotion in between. Just start studying yourself without any judgment. There's no judgment here. The only thing that you could ask yourself sometimes is like, okay, how could I do this differently? Or how could I maybe change that? But you're not going to fight with yourself, because that's what you're probably doing already. So we want to just take a step back and see, okay, how is this behaving? What is and over time you start noticing changes. You start noticing more mindfulness during the day. You're going to have a lot of aha moments. You're going to observe other people's physiology. You're going to see their physiology with how they're feeling. It's just a very, I'm not saying a simple way in, but it's pretty direct for people. This is pretty close in everyone's awareness. It's quick to achieve, I guess, to create this connection. But make sure that you do, to make a commitment. That's important to do that every day. That's just a commitment, and that you have to be willing to take that commitment. Do that 20 minutes a day, and that will have a profound effect already.
Short and sweet. Well, the one thing that really changed a lot for me was journaling during the morning. That was, I started doing that. That was actually an exercise. Do this 21 days. Write down what you're grateful for. So I wrote down, okay, and I have like a book, or having a journal, and I said, okay, every day I take just one page and I fill it out. And there are so many things to be grateful for, and now I'm at day somewhere 2000 something. So it was an exercise to do 21 days, and I found it so helpful to start the day with being grateful for what's there. And there, what I said before, there's so many things to be grateful for in your life. And it can be small things like to have a nice breath of air around you, or a lovely view out of your window. It's smaller things, big things. And when you start with being grateful, in a grateful state, you will carry yourself differently during the day.
Yeah, so, it's less about you, right?
Yeah.
And I could add to that also to the physiology, etc. So after training internal arts now since 2006, and going through all these frequencies and understanding the openings of the joints and the fascia, and then the thoughts and all the things, the astral, the akasha, the light, etc. When I tune in the morning into gratefulness, a state of gratefulness, it's all there at the same time. It's like the connective energy of everything, right? So I feel, the three openings are there. I feel connected to astral energy. I feel openness. I feel stillness. When I connect into a feeling. So I tune into the feeling instead of like, what is the day bringing towards me? No, I already start with that energy, just like Didi. And I tune into that energy, make sure I keep that for a couple of minutes, really stand there and see how there's an inner spiral coming. Everything starts to open, your whole energy starts to change. But for me, it's like, so you teach people all these details and then say, okay, now be grateful. And they're like, oh, but now everything is just there. I'm still, there's openness, there's presence, more in the moment, emotions, things, they're a little bit more there. Why? It's not really about you. When you're grateful, it's not really about you. It has a lot to do with the things around you. I mean, you could be grateful for your health, of course, or your abilities, or that, and that's fine, and that's super great. But think about your mom, or think about the dogs lying there in the. I see a little dog there, Jay. Well, we've got one on the couch, so there's so much to be grateful for. But it's such a powerful energy. You will see that internal power comes from gratefulness. It's just there. I mean, it combines everything. There's power. There's happiness there. I mean, you could say, okay, I'm happy, and you could fake it, but you cannot fake gratefulness. It's not, you cannot fake that energy. So when you really tune into that, you do that a couple of minutes, and you start every morning from that. Just like Didi also said, that's probably the greatest tip I could give you. Just really tune into gratefulness, because there's so much to be grateful for, and it's so powerful. It's yeah.
Fantastic. And well, it's a beautiful note to leave off of gratitude. And I'm so grateful for you guys coming on the show and spending time here. And just the last thing, I'd love to know, or just to remind us, where can we best access your teachings, materials, website, social media?
Okay. Cheeskills.com, right? And you could go to cheeskills.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter there. So we can keep you posted on the program, anything we're up to in the coming future, or in the future. You can find us on YouTube, Cheese Skills on YouTube, and we share a lot of things there. We're going to start up our podcast again from, I think in 2 weeks, we're going to start with that as well. We're going to be more constant with that. We've had a little bit of a break. So you can find us there. We've got a course, it's your Qigong course. If you're interested in just foundational building blocks for Qigong, we have that also. You can find it through our website, cheeskills.com. And I guess that's yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thanks for having us. And thanks for your wonderful questions. And thanks also for everyone watching. It's great to share and learn. And perfect.